temporary visitor in Manchester, leading a Kavanagh appeal that's taking place at the moment. So we'll start by saluting the three jewels of the Buddha, the Dharma, his teachings, and the Sangha, the community, and we'll do that in call and response. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Namah. Is online now, happening. Great. So welcome to everyone who's on YouTube as well. So what I'll do first is give us an outline of the afternoon, what we'll be doing, and then I'll say a little bit more about why we're doing it. So yeah, once I've finished saying why we're doing it, we'll meditate. We'll do some compassion practice, let's say. Then after that, Stephen, Sangamani and myself will have a little kind of panel discussion about the area, and then we'll go into small groups where we can discuss, and then we'll come back together and discuss as a whole group. Then at about, if we're doing well, 5 to 4 we'll have a tea break, and then we'll finish with puja, which Sangamani will lead us in. So that's the kind of arc of the afternoon, and we'll finish at 5. But yeah, why are we doing this afternoon? Why do we celebrate Dhamma Revolution Festival, and why do we celebrate Dr. Ambedkar, who we've got multiple times on our beautiful shrine? And thanks to Kathy and Christine for putting it together. Kathy said that they had to learn how to do a shrine while they were doing the shrine. So they worked out how to do a shrine and then made an amazing one. So thanks very much. And thanks to Mohsin and Susanna, who I won't look at because my voice won't be picked up by the mic, but thanks to Mohsin and Susanna for doing the tech. So yeah, Dr. Ambedkar. So Dr. Ambedkar is a very famous man in India. If you go to the Indian Parliament in Delhi, there's I think I'm right in saying this. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's one statue right outside the Parliament, and it's of Dr. Ambedkar, and he's holding a book, and I think he's gesturing to go forward. And the book is the Indian Constitution, because he wrote it. So he wrote the Constitution of India. So he's a very well known, very famous man. And he was born into a very poor and a community that experienced a lot of hardship. And he was very fortunate, and he was very gifted, and he managed to raise himself up to get a really good education, including in I think it was the LSE, the London School of Economics. Is that right? And became a barrister, became law minister of India. But what he saw was that even though he managed to get himself into a really fortunate position where he could make a real difference, he saw that his community, people who were born as he was born, didn't have the same opportunities that many other people do. So he kind of set himself the mission of changing that, so that those people who were born in his community could live lives that were free, that were prosperous, that were lives of dignity and meaning. And his conclusion was that he needed to convert to Buddhism in order to do that. And so in 1956, the 14th of October 1956, so it'll be 70 years next year, he, along with hundreds of thousands of his followers, he converted to Buddhism. And he saw that Buddhism was the means for him of not only gaining individual freedom, but also freedom collectively, freedom for ultimately for his whole community, but I think it extends out. And the reason that us in this Buddhist centre are celebrating him is because he's got a close connection, or had a particularly close connection with Sangharakshita, our founder. So they met a few times when Dr. Ambedkar was alive. But then when Dr. Ambedkar converted, there was this, we call it a Dhamma Revolution. It was like there was this revolution in his community. And it was like they were stepping into this unknown territory, which was surely very exciting, but also quite scary, I think. They were stepping out of something. And 6 weeks after the conversion, he died. And it just so happened that Sangharakshita didn't quite know why. And then the day after he arrived, or maybe the day he arrived, Dr. Ambedkar died. And so Sangharakshita basically just gave himself to helping the situation. He saw that everyone, it looked like they were falling apart, basically. They were like, we've lost our leader. What are we going to do? And so he just stepped up, and he said it was almost like something was working through him, and he gave this like crazy amount of lectures and talks to kind of help console people and to help give them the means through the Dharma to kind of find a way forward. And I think I worked it out once. It was like he gave about 11 lectures a day, something like in that time. It was crazy. And I've just come back from retreat. I got back yesterday and I was like, oh, I'm teaching twice tomorrow. If I was just teaching 11 times, I'd definitely feel a bit done in. But then he said that he left Nagpur where he was completely refreshed. Amazing. And from that moment on, Sangharakshita, the founder of this tradition, had a deep relationship, affinity, connection with that community, with Dr. Ambedkar's community. And that's just continued. And so a big proportion of our order and movement, the Triratna order and movement, is in India. And it makes a real difference. It makes a real difference to lots of lives. And so in a way, that's reason enough to celebrate this day. I went to India 8 years ago and experienced the order and movement over there, and it was incredible. It was such a rich experience, and I gained so much. And I do think that we so often forget about that substantial part of our community over in India. Kind of for obvious reasons in a way. It's very far away. But I think it's really good to get a taste of that. But then I was also thinking, and some of us were talking a bit about this festival, and we're talking a lot at the moment about why we do any of our festivals here. Why do we do Buddha Day celebration? What's our Buddha Day festival? It seems obvious, but like, why? What are the deeper reasons for doing that? And yeah, we've had some conversations around this festival. Like, maybe it's enough to get a taste of Dr. Ambedkar, but is there any other reason? And how do we not do the same thing every year? Because sometimes it does feel a bit like that. It's wonderful, and it can feel like, oh yeah, we're hearing the story of Dr. Ambedkar again, and that's great, and what does that mean for us here and now then? So what I'm hoping we'll get from today is, a sense of what we can do with that today. And one thing I was reflecting on was that I think what Dr. Ambedkar really gives us is a sense of how Buddhist practice, moving towards freedom, liberation, growth, however you want to put it, it can't be an individual experience. It can't be an individual kind of me just doing my practice. If it is that, it's very, very limited. And we talk a lot in Buddhism about going beyond the self. And so then surely others have to be involved. And I think Dr. Ambedkar really teaches us that he saw that freedom has to have an other regarding aspect. It has to have an altruistic aspect that does at least try to transform the world and transform society. And so, I was going to say something else, what was it? It's gone. But yeah, I do think we have a lot that we could reflect on around, how do we affect and change the world as a community, whether you're new to the Buddhist Centre or you've been around for decades. How do we change the world? And it will look different for each of us, but I sometimes think we don't have that question as much as we could. And everyone's got different ideas about what it looks like. But yeah, what would it look like to explore this? And we did on a recent retreat, we had a kind of panel discussion a bit like this, talking about how do we change the world? And it was really good to have these different opinions come in and explore it. And what does a Buddhist response to changing the world look like? And people often say that it feels like we're in a particularly dark time. I don't know if that's true. I've got one friend who says it's just kind of always been like this. But yeah, for some of us anyway, it can feel like these are difficult times. And 2 weeks ago or something, we had the attack in North Manchester, and I saw people in the WhatsApp groups like they wanted the Buddhist Centre to issue a response, and we did. We sent out an email, but then it's like, well, how do we respond to that as Buddhists? How does our Dharma practice respond to that? And what does that look like individually? What does it look like collectively? How does changing the world in a Buddhist response not just look like we're all becoming kind of social workers? So there's all sorts of questions that I hope we'll explore today. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say to start us off. So what we'll do now is we'll meditate, and we'll do a meditation. Sometimes it's called bodhicitta practice. It's more widely known as Tonglen, which means giving and receiving. And I think probably all of you have done the Metta Bhavana. It's a bit like the Metta Bhavana, but I think it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful practice, and essentially what we're doing is we're breathing in the suffering of the world, and we breathe out moonlight, soothing moonlight, which cures the suffering of the world. Yeah, and in a way that's one response. That's one response to the suffering that we see in the world. We can do this practice. So yeah, we'll meditate for about half an hour. So if you want to get into your meditation posture, and I'll guide us through the whole thing. So firstly, just arriving into your body. Noticing the sounds around you. The play of light behind your eyelids. Any smells or tastes. Noticing how you are right now. Your emotional state. And becoming aware of your body. Contact with the ground and the chair or the cushions. If we notice any tension in our bodies, any holding, can we just relax or soften in those areas? And becoming aware of the breath. Noticing the sensations as the breath comes and goes. Noticing the swelling and subsiding in the chest and torso. And bringing your awareness to wherever feels like the emotional center or core of your being. That might be in the center of your chest. Or it might be somewhere else, maybe in your stomach, maybe somewhere else. Just bringing attention to this area. Maybe imagining the breath coming and going into and out of this area. And this center of our being is strong, as well as being tender. It's full of light and beauty and love. It's radiant. And it's wise. And this center of our being is where the practice is going to take place from. And it might be enough to imagine that this radiant heart can take in and transform all the suffering in the world. Or we might need some help. So we might want to imagine a figure that inspires us deep in the center of our being. A Buddha, a Bodhisattva. And they'll do the work. Breathing into and out of the heart center. Before we start transforming the suffering into love, I'll read a poem called The Bodhisattva's Reply from Sangharakshita. What will you say to those whose lives spring up between custom and circumstance, as weeds between wet stones, whose lives corruptly flower, warped from the beautiful, refuse and sediment, their means of sustenance? What will you say to them? That woman, night after night, must sell her body for bread. This boy with the well-oiled hair, and the innocence dead in his face, must lubricate the obscene bodies of gross old men, and both must be merry all day, for thinking would make them mad. What will you say to them? Those dull-eyed men must tend machines till they become machines, or till they are cogs in the giant wheel of industry, producing the clothes that they cannot wear, and the cellophaned luxury goods they can never hope to buy to them. All these dim shadows which, through the pale gold tropic dawn, from the outcast village flit, balancing on their heads baskets to bear away garbage and excrement, hugging the wall for fear of the scorn of their fellow men, what will you say to them? And wasted lives that litter the streets of modern cities, souls like butt-ends tossed in the gutter and trampled on, human refuse dumped at the crossroads where civilization and civilization meet to breed the unbeautiful. What will you say to them? I shall say nothing, but only fold in compassion's arms their frailty, till it becomes strong with my strength, their limbs bright with my beauty, their souls with my wisdom luminous, or till I have become like them, a seed between wet stones of custom and circumstance. Breathing into our heart center, breathing out from it. And now bringing to mind a situation maybe closer to home. A friend perhaps that we know is suffering. And we can imagine their suffering coming from them and their experience like shadow. And we breathe in the shadow fearlessly. And in our heart center, the shadow is magically transformed into moonlight. And we breathe the moonlight out onto the situation. Soothing, easing the suffering. And you could do it one breath at a time. In comes the shadow, out comes the moonlight. Or if it's easier, you could focus on the in-breath for a few times. And then focus on breathing out the light. And in your own time, you can move on to different situations, bringing to mind different people that we know in our lives that are suffering. And at the moment, keeping the reflections to more personal connections. And when we feel ready, we can start to expand outwards. Transforming the suffering of those that we don't know. Perhaps starting with those in the city of Manchester who are suffering. People living on the streets. People struggling with drug addiction, other addictions. People who feel the need to turn to crime, and their victims. And those whose suffering might be less immediately apparent. Shopping, with grief on their hearts after a recent bereavement. Or a relationship breakdown. People who are out today who are just scared. Who are confused. People who don't know what to do with their lives. And the focus really is on the light, alleviating all this suffering. Imagining the relief, the joy for those people when their suffering ends. And then expanding wider and wider. Maybe into the whole country. And then wherever our imagination takes us. Sometimes to areas of war, famine, oppression. places where there's evidently very strong suffering. And also to areas where the suffering might be less intense, but still, people will still be struggling in some ways. They still need the light. It's not just the suffering of people, it can be suffering of animals, anything alive that suffers. We heal it all. And to finish, I'll read the poem one more time. The Bodhisattva's reply. What will you say to those whose lives spring up between custom and circumstance, as weeds between wet stones, whose lives corruptly flower, warped from the beautiful, refuse and sediment, their means of sustenance? What will you say to them? That woman, night after night, must sell her body for bread. This boy with the well-oiled hair and the innocence dead in his face must lubricate the obscene bodies of gross old men, and both must be merry all day, for thinking would make them mad. What will you say to them? Those dull-eyed men must tend machines till they become machines, or till they are cogs in the giant wheel of industry, producing the clothes that they cannot wear, and the cellophaned luxury goods they can never hope to buy. What will you say to them? All these dim shadows which, through the pale gold tropic dawn, from the outcast village flit, balancing on their heads baskets to bear away garbage and excrement, hugging the wall for fear of the scorn of their fellow men. What will you say to them? And wasted lives that litter the streets of modern cities, souls like butt ends tossed in the gutter and trampled on, human refuse dumped at the crossroads where civilization and civilization meet to breed the unbeautiful. What will you say to them? I shall say nothing, but only fold in compassion's arms their frailty till it becomes strong with my strength, their limbs bright with my beauty, their souls with my wisdom luminous, or till I have become like them, a seed between whetstones of custom and circumstance. Okay, so we'll have a 2-minute leg stretch, silent leg stretch now, while we reorganize the front of the room.
Okay, thank you very much for that lovely meditation. So going to have a little panel discussion now, and the main questions of the discussion, we're going to see where it goes, but how do you respond to suffering in the world, and how do you bring a more dharmic light to the suffering that you see? So I think following on from what introduction, I'll just kind of give the reason why I wanted to do this panel, is that I can find it after going to India and coming to quite a few Dhamma Revolution days, or Dr. Ambedkar days as they used to be called, I always really enjoyed the events and was always really inspired by the story of Dr. Ambedkar. And whilst planning for this event, it was, that's great, and it feels like we've done that. We've properly connected with that, and my sense, at least when I left, that felt quite distant. It felt like an inspiration that I didn't necessarily know what to do with. It felt like really interesting information, but not necessarily something that could impact or easily impact my day-to-day life. So what I wanted to do is, how do we take that ideal or that inspiration of what Dr. Ambedkar did, in that he saw suffering, he saw discrimination, he saw a world that he wanted to change, and he used his knowledge of the Dharma, his knowledge and inspiration of the Three Jewels to bring about that change. How do we take that overarching ideal and bring it into our lives? How do we do that on maybe a smaller scale? How do we do that in a way that works or is suitable for us? And I suppose what struck me for that is that it is going to be completely different, or maybe completely different for every person. There won't be one size fits all. Not all of us are going to leave this session and go marching on the streets. Not all of us are going to be able to work for team-based right livelihoods, but that what I want from this session is for all of us to leave and have a clearer idea of that first question: how do we respond to suffering in the world? So starting off with that really honest reflection of, okay, how do I respond to suffering in the world? And then, maybe some inspiration to maybe change that second question of how do we bring a more dharmic light to that? How do we make that more in line with our practice, with our ideals? And I think we've got a fantastic panel for this. I think we all, in our own ways, do that in different contexts. And I think we kind of highlight that thing of, yes, it's going to be individual for each person. It's going to have a slightly different flavour to it. So I've talked for a bit longer than I planned to at the start, so I will turn to each of you and kind of maybe give a bit of context of what your day-to-day life is at and how you find that is you responding to the suffering in the world. Starting with you.
Thanks. So it feels a bit weird because most of you know me quite well and know what I do, so I'm just like giving you old news, but maybe it's worth saying anyway, and those of you that don't know me get to know me a bit. So I live here. So on the top floor of this building, there's a Buddhist men's community where Stephen and I live. Spoiler alert for his info. And so I live there. Have done for about 3 years, and I work here at the Buddhist Center. So I do the publicity for the center, and increasingly do a lot of teaching and kind of look at how and what we teach as well. So that's kind of what my life looks like. And I guess one thing to add as well is that like friendship feels like a really important part of all of that. So I try to deepen my friendships with everyone, really, with people who are more experienced than me, people who are kind of peers, but in particular people who might be newer to things, who I could support through I guess what I've gained from others over the years. So trying to kind of pass on the it's like the riches really that I feel like I've been given over many years, really. I've been around for about 11 and a bit years now. I think that's probably enough. And what did you want? How it helps the world,
or how you think that is or has impacted your response to suffering in the world?
how it's impacted it or how it does it?
Both.
Both. Goodness. So,
in fact, let's start with how you think that is responding to the suffering in the world.
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with a caveat. I think that people who kind of go out to the world and work like out there, if you want to put it like that, do amazing things, and I think that's really, really important. And the reason that I have worked for Buddhism for most of the last, 7 years, like the vast majority of my adult life, is because I used to be a teacher. I was a history teacher, and I saw that was very good in many ways, and made really lovely connections with some of the students, and was kind of passing on the gift of education so people could learn to think for themselves and navigate the world in a more kind of informed way. But what I also noticed was that it's almost like I was operating within a certain framework, a kind of secular framework. So like in terms of supporting my students, it didn't kind of answer the big questions, in particular like death and what do you do about the fact that we're going to die. But also, well, in a way, a lot of what I was teaching and how it was being kind of taught and examined and so on was kind of at the whim of like the Department of Education, and it was like there were certain kind of pressures put on kids, get them to university as kind of successfully as you can and all that kind of thing, that I was like, I'm not always sure this is actually helping people here. And so then I left that. I didn't know what I'd do, and then I started working for Buddhism, first at a retreat centre and then here a few years later. And I think what I've found is that, I think firstly it speaks to individuals. There's a line in something that we recite regularly where it says something about the Dharma being kind of understood individually. And I think that's one thing that I really love, that one person will come through the door and they might need one thing, and it's like, right, okay, that person, struggles with like really low feelings of self-worth, and so through kind of befriending them and through them kind of grappling with themselves and with the Buddhist teachings, they learn how to think a lot better about themselves. Some other people might think a bit too much about themselves and might need to kind of think a bit about others more. There probably is a link there with low self-esteem, but we'll ignore that bit. And it's like, it just seems to work. It's really worked on in my life, and it seems to really help with people that I see. I've seen people really, really change over the years. I'm sat next to someone who's changed a lot over the years. It's too obvious. I think that's the thing. It's all about transformation, I think, and I feel like I've received so much that's helped me to transform so much over the years, and I want to help others to transform, and the Dharma is the direct way of doing that for me.
Thank you. Over to you, Sangamani.
What's the question?
Kind of what is your day-to-day life like? What is the context of your life, and how you think that helps you respond to the suffering in the world, or how does that respond to the suffering in the world?
Okay. Well, my day-to-day life is... Does that sound tinny? Can you hear me? Yeah. My day-to-day life, I've lived in a sort of family situation. My daughter's 30, and yes, I've sort of been pretty much in the world since I met the Dharma 25 years ago. And but I've had a couple of opportunities to also sort of work in right livelihood as well, which has been, it's been amazing actually. So starting off with Buddhafield East, then working in an evolution shop, but over the last 11 years working for Karana, which I imagine, does anyone here not know what Karana do? Yep.
You might want to say what Right Livelihood is.
Right livelihood, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, so right livelihood is, what is it? So it's a work context where we're working and practicing the Dharma. So it's using work as practice. So working together, sharing the same sort of values and ethical guidelines and vision. So working together, and there's something in that working together that means you really kind of meet yourself and others, because that's what we're all committed to doing. So for the last 11 years, I have been with Karana, which is part of the lineage of practice in our community. So for the last 40 years, well, it's interesting that you read that poem, Chandradeepa, the poem that he just read. Karana was a response to those lives, so people in South Asia and India, Nepal and Bangladesh that are marginalised and living live poverty and stress. Because that's the life they're born into, and there isn't much opportunity to change that. So I've been part of Karana, which is a funding organisation, a trust that sends money to locally led projects within those countries, working alongside incredible partners that know what the right response is for those communities. So that's Karana. But my work within Karana is to knock on doors as part of teams and to support and mentor people to fundraise. And a lot of people in this community have done it as part of our lineage of practice. I've done it. I've done it. I can't tell you how many appeals I've done now, but it's been, well, I'm on an appeal at the moment in Manchester, that's why I'm here, with Neely, who's sitting there quietly. She's on call to the team that are outdoor knocking right now, so she's sitting there. And it's a deeply transformative context for practice, and it's you can't avoid meeting suffering, and you're doing it to alleviate suffering, so it's a really interesting response and a way of meeting your own suffering, and I've certainly learnt a lot through doing that over the years. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I suppose you mentioned kind of how you are, in your day-to-day life encountering very real suffering, supporting suffering, I suppose, not supporting suffering, that sounds like you wanted to carry on, supporting those who are suffering. How do you think that has changed over time? Because I suppose something definitely within my experience is one of the ways which that my response has been impacted by the Dharma is realising that certain worldly responses to suffering is hatred. It's anger and it's hatred, and I suppose realising that just furthers it on and kind of us and others, and creates a lot of, just allows it to go on and on. So how has the past, how many years was it with Karana, sorry? 12? 11 years. So how has the past 11 years kind of shaped that? How has it allowed that to be, I suppose, more refined, hopefully?
I don't know about refined, but I just want to start by saying my early life, I arrived at a Buddhist centre full of aversion and a very closed heart, and I had no idea that was something you could transform or heal or change, actually. I didn't have any sort of vision for that in my life. And I think what Karana has done, it's really meant because when we're, well, in the work that I'm doing in supporting others, but also a necessary part of that is to know what my own response to suffering is, and I think that's key with the Dharma. That's what we're trying to sort of get to, is like, well, what do we do with suffering? And the opportunity that knocking on door after door, or being in an appeal context where people go through quite a strong, intensive journey, is that you really come up close to your fear, I guess. I think what I've had to do is learn a lot about myself. I'm quite a fiery person. My response to suffering was harden or react, or it's a kind of fight in terms of the nervous system. I'm a fight response kind of person, which causes even more suffering, of course. And so through the work that I've been doing, I've learnt my own sort of responses. I learnt that I'd become quite hypervigilant through my early conditioning, so I had to start to do some work around that. And I think if you can work on that level first, because that's usually the kind of first response, how you meet a situation that's going to kind of cause fear to arise, getting to know what your usual responses are is very helpful. And then I think you can practice the Dharma from that point. Otherwise, you're just going into the habitual, and it's usually a disconnecting thing, isn't it? What we do. What was your question again?
I think you pretty much answered it,
Okay.
but kind of how. Well, I suppose it goes back to that first question of how do we respond to suffering in the world, and how has that changed for you over the past 11 years? Because I think you answered it really well in there is a reason why I've chosen this as the first question, is we have to start with kind of awareness of how we respond to suffering. Just an example has popped into my head. I used to work in asylum and immigration, and obviously in that racism is a massive factor. And I always talk the spiel about, okay, we can't, if someone counters or comes towards us with racism, going back to them with hatred or judgment is just going to further the problem and isn't going to, change the situation. So what we want to do is respond with information, with understanding, with care of where they're coming from. And I was at a refugee kind of World Cup football day thing, and it was this big celebration, and then this guy comes up and he starts talking about just certain bits of hatred, and this woman was visibly upset, so I kind of said, no, I'll respond to this. So I stepped forward and I started talking to him. Within 2 minutes I was shouting at him, and then someone had to come and take me off, and they responded much better. And I suppose that is an anecdote just to highlight of, I thought this is what I wanted to do, but here is where I honestly was. I still had a lot of hatred and anger. And in fact, a couple of years later, it was at a similar type of rally that I realised that I had to step back from the world that I was in, because the only way I could respond to the situation at the current time, the only way I was responding to the current situation was with hatred and anger. And I realised I wasn't doing anything to actually help the situation. So I had to, take a step back. So I suppose my question towards you was kind of, you've managed to be in this a situation for 11 years where that could have been a very easy response, and you've managed to kind of stay with that and find it sometimes find it helpful. So I suppose that's just a rejoicing, I guess. Well done. Coming over to Chandradeepa, I've got maybe a more difficult question for you to ask. So this second question being how do you bring a more dharmic light to the suffering you see? I suppose a preliminary question for that is, what is a dharmic light to the suffering that we see? What would be the response? Not that we want necessarily, but what would be a dharmic response or a dharmic light to suffering?
Personally or generally?
I think maybe generally and then personally.
I mean, I think it's quite difficult to answer. The kind of like more generally, I guess that's why I said it's difficult. Yeah, I mean, there's the usual quotes out there that kind of are really helpful and go out a lot. Like, recently, the Dhammapada thing going out, hatred is never ceased by hatred, it's ceased by love. And I think it goes out all the time when something difficult happens because it is really good. I think Sangamani spoke well actually about kind of taking personal responsibility and we see the suffering in the world and well what do we do with that? And I think it's just so easy to be very kind of external about it and all right, well that needs to stop, I need to sort that out, I need to get out there, and I think that's good, and at the same time, well, they basically think of the Brahma Viharas, these meditations, one of which is the Metta Bhavana, and the near enemy of compassion, which is one of them, is horrified anxiety. So, do we just get completely overwhelmed by the suffering in the world? If we are, that's not helpful. But then I think it's so easy to think that it is that. Oh right, yeah, I'm really anxious. I'm worrying about. That's good. That's what I should be doing. But actually, if we're anxious, well, we're more likely to fall into hatred. It's not going to be good for us, and our response won't be a wise response as well. It's so easy, I think, to think we're helping, but actually we're just kind of either perpetuating the issue or just like making it a kind of seesaw. Like I noticed that when I studied history, that it's like, there's some kind of suffering that goes on in the world, and then some kind of opposing force comes in and kind of tries to sort it, and probably at that time people are like, oh great, it's changing, but actually it's more hatred, and it's just like, it's just different kinds of the same thing. Whereas I think with the wisdom perspective of Buddhism, it's like you kind of go above that and you see, what is it? Well, in a way, you see the kind of oscillation, and realise that actually we need to do something different. That's much more based on love, much more based on individual humans. I think it's based on kind of humanity, and it's based on getting to the root of things. That'll do.
Great, yeah, and just while you were talking, then it really made me think of, well, how Dr. Ambedkar responded to suffering. In, at least from my somewhat limited knowledge of him, I saw no kind of, he didn't want to make the situation of his community better than the perpetrators of the suffering. He just wanted equality. He wanted a situation where all were equal. And responded it in that way, and responded in a way that also saw that where you didn't necessarily see that seesaw of, okay, if we manage to rectify the situation with anger and then try to, there be repercussions for the people, then it just, it continually seesaws, as you said. And I suppose just to seesaw over here. I suppose just to, at the start I kind of mentioned wanting this to be quite practical, quite really something for us to reflect on and change with. So now we have a more idea of what the Dharmic light is. How do we embody that kind of ideal scene in Dr. Ambedkar? How do we not have just this kind of like theory of, okay, so I'll respond with love and kindness rather than hatred, and it be, I know kind of a personal response when I did step back was to step back too far and just kind of practice a theory of, oh, I'm just going to practice love and kindness to people. How do we actually take that out into the world? And I'm aware that obviously that will be different for each person, but...
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question, isn't it? The image that just came to my mind was of the 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara and all the many responses that there are. yeah, and we've all got our own relationships to fear and to suffering, and yeah. I think the danger is of, I hope this isn't too radical to say, but I think the danger with Buddhism is that equanimity could be misunderstood, and I think there's a fine line between equanimity and avoidance, and I mean, we all just need to sort of get to know our own limits, of course, and yeah, where is the line of engagement and avoidance, and can we develop that capacity for responsiveness, and especially develop our capacity to be with disturbance. I mean, ultimately, that's what the Dharma's trying to support us to do, is to have freedom from suffering, but that's also the unnecessary suffering that the mind adds on to the kind of basic experience of disturbance or sensation. So I think I just wanted to just tell you a quick story of, like, the other night I was out with one of our fundraisers, and it was so clear what we all do. So this person, I won't name names, but they'd arrived in a street, and then they told me everything that they believed about this street, and that they shouldn't be there, that people on their WhatsApp group were going to be telling each other all of these different things, and they were making it up in their minds and believing it, and then that was almost making them want to go somewhere else, because they were convinced by something. And I knew that all that was going on underneath that was fear. But rather than be with the basic experience of fear in an embodied way, and let that move through you, they'd built a whole narrative on top of that they were, it's like fake news. They were making it up and believing it, and then they were going to do something else. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then the great thing that happened was we knocked on a door, and we got talking to this really lovely, open woman who asked lots of questions to the fundraiser. And her response to us after about 10 minutes was just, it was like the opposite of the fake news that the fundraiser had been telling herself. And she said, there's something very different that's here on my door, and come in and have a cup of tea. And she was enjoying talking to us as much as we were her, and that's the kind of thing that can happen. It's like it gives you an opportunity to see what your mind does, and I think that's the kind of first step. The other step, I think, empathy as well, and yeah, it's easy when fear is here to go into polarization and othering, but imagination and empathy, I think, is massive. Yeah.
Yeah, you've kind of got me going now. So, yeah, to maybe say something that's radical as well. I do think that, at least for most of us, kind of in this society, like we're so self-obsessed, and I'm definitely self-obsessed a lot of the time, and very individualistic, and I think that's such a cause of suffering. And yeah, I see it again and again. Like, it's just so easy for me and others to get wrapped up in our own kind of quite small world. And I've just been on this retreat, and we were kind of having this very kind of big cosmic Buddhist scripture read to us, and I just kind of felt, oh my goodness, like, my life could be so much bigger than it actually is, and other people are such an important part of all that, I think. And a few weeks ago, I went to where the appeal's staying in Stretford and led study with them, and I was just so inspired by them, because it's like they're doing something that's just like very much for other people. There's not much in it for them really, apart from growth. And And I think because they are really trying to go beyond themselves, it's like it's like I could just see, like, when we were kind of talking about what was going on for them and linking it to the Dharma that we were studying, it was like, oh, they just keep hitting these walls of, like, in a way, what they think are their limitations. And we were exploring it, and it was like you could see people start to, like, see little kind of gaps in those walls, and it's almost like without pushing yourself beyond what you think you're capable of, you don't start to see that. Yeah, it was so inspiring, so inspiring.
Great. I think we'll leave it there. Just one more reflection, actually, because I've gone a whole half an hour without mentioning Green Tara, so I'm gonna bring her in. Just as you were talking, Sangamani, that kind of idea of, and also what you were saying before, Chandradeepa, about kind of like, that horrified anxiety or stepping too much into the world and just becoming lost in it. And I think particularly within that, lost in false views, absolutely convinced that we're right, righteous indignation, and the other is wrong. And the particular part of Green Tara that I wanted to highlight is this idea of her being sat with one leg forward and one leg in meditation posture. So as you were mentioning, Sangamani, that idea of kind of like, there's fear here and there's fake news, and I want to run away from it rather than, approach it. And it's that, we need that composure, we need that groundedness to be able to be aware of what's going on. But then that step forward, that using that awareness and that composure and that groundedness to step forward and help beings in suffering, I think is really inspiring, and can be used again in that kind of theoretical way that's above and distant and maybe an ideal, but also, with something like the Karuna appeal, or in lots of ways that we can respond, can we bring that kind of groundedness while stepping forward? So with that, we will go into little groups. Let's focus on the two questions that we kind of loosely dealt with. So how do you respond to suffering in the world? And then how do you want to bring a more dharmic light to the suffering that you see? I suppose I would highlight in there two things. The you. So make it, again, not theory, make it really practical. How do you respond to suffering? How do you want to bring a more dharmic light to it? And secondly, wary of theory and wanting to move towards that more practical, wanting to move towards that more, how can we actually respond to this? We've got the whole centre, right? So group of 4 over here, if that's okay?
You could just let people get into 3s and 4s.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. So groups of 3s and 4. We've got this room, we've got the Vajra Hall downstairs in the mezzanine and the lounge, and then upstairs in the Green Tara room. So that should be enough spaces, I think. And we will come back, we'll each slightly into our tea break, and we'll come back, in fact, why don't we go into groups and then have a tea break, and we'll be back here, plenary. So come back here for 3:45. So we've got just over 15 minutes. 3:50. The chair said that wasn't long, so let's come back here for 3:50. we are running very, very low on time, so we'll just start and allow people to come in as they do. So yeah, we're just going to do a little plenary now, and then we will have a tea break. So we'll do this for 10 minutes, and then we will have a 10-minute tea break. That sound all right? Yeah, great. So thoughts, questions, reflections, praise? Oh yeah, yeah. Hands up, anyone?
Okay.
Not you.
I've always got questions.
I'll say something small.
Yeah. Over to Beth.
Hello. Ooh, that's loud. Yeah, I think a bit of a theme came through at the end of not underestimating the impact of the small things that we do, and that the daily interactions that we have with others out in the world, in the Sangha and out of the Sangha, they really do make a difference. And when we do practices like the Metta Bhavana, that really helps us to bring that positive kind of energy as well to others. Whereas if we were kind of sitting and absorbing maybe too much information about suffering, it can bring our own energy down and make it harder for us to be positive with others in the world. So yeah, that was a nice reminder, particularly at the end, because I was getting a bit kind of down on myself and, oh, I'm not doing enough. And then that helped to uplift me a bit.
I know I said I was going to shoehorn Hinterland into the thing, but I think this actually fits really well, because I think with that comes a really nice reminder of the kind of daily interactions, and the little things really do matter. So then I think that really creates a lovely a pressure almost, but also just such a rich opportunity of, okay, so in my personal interactions on a day-to-day basis, I really do have to take responsibility. I do have an impact. It can be very easy to maybe, if we're feeling a bit moody or something like that, to be a bit dismissive of someone, or if we're in a rush, to maybe not act as skillfully towards someone as possible. And I found that such a practice working downstairs in Hinterland. We are quite obviously Buddhist, and we're quite, forward-facing in that. And I am very, very busy, and I speak to, if we're busy, I speak to hundreds of people a day. And it is so easy in that to feel stressed and to try to rush things and to be a bit, if my social batteries run out, to be a bit moody in it. And then I like to take responsibility for that. I like to remember, this might be someone's first interaction with a Buddhist. And I'm very forward in that, and it's kind of, there is a pressure to that. But there is, again, there's such an opportunity, like that is almost why Hinterland is there. That is how I reach out into the world. That is how I respond to suffering. I create a business, a hospitality, where I can respond differently to people, and who knows the impact that can have on them. So, yeah, like the daily interactions that we have carry such weight.
I also think as well that there's this image from the Buddhist tradition of the Bodhisattva, who is someone who's trying to gain enlightenment not just for themselves but for all. They should be like a tusker elephant who just jumps into one lotus pool and then just jumps into the next one and jumps into the next one, and they're just kind of playing, they're just really enjoying themselves. And the reason I say that is because I think it's such a nice antidote to the thing of like, there's all this suffering in the world, I should get out there and do that. I wonder whether the tension is like, how do we not kind of limit ourselves whilst also not getting into this pressure kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm going to just add a bit to that. I've been experiencing some fear around this situation in the United States and what's been happening politically. And the inspiration for me is the image of the people in Portland who are activists, who are standing up for their right to protest against ICE agents federal agents coming into their city, but they're dressing up as inflatable, cute creatures and dancing and playing in front of the, the army people that are just like standing there with guns. And I just think it's the perfect, it's a bit like the Bodhisattva's play. It's like, it doesn't all have to be, doom and gloom. It could be like, oh yeah, you're still doing something, you're still saying something, but it can be fun and it can be playful as well and joyful. And I love that. I love that kind of line. It's radical.
Yeah, thank you. I think on a personal level, I think it has to come from our Buddhist ethical background as well, and knowing what's right, how we can respond, how we can positively respond to people. From a Buddhist point of view, I think you're more aware of the suffering, not just the suffering that's in other countries, but right on our doorstep, right next to us. And I think too, we're very much aware of to take responsibility and to have compassion, to have some self-care as well, but to respond positively and also collectively as a community as well. We were talking about the incident that happened with the Jewish community, and our hospital went into lockdown, and I think I saw some of the footage, and my first response was that nobody actually went over to the man that was lay on the ground, and I always think that hearing is the last thing to sort of go when you're passing, and nobody actually went to respond to him. And then I thought of the chap who was shot, the perpetrator, but he has family. He's a son. He's a brother. His family must be suffering. The community must be suffering. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Is I'm just more aware with my practice as a Buddhist of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, actually, and responding how you can, when you can, with your resources. That's just what I wanted to say, really. Yeah, thank you.
Well put, Effie.
What you called the perpetrator, he was suffering. He was suffering, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that just kind of kicked off something for me of kind of, you mentioned our knowledge of Buddhist ethics and our practice, and I suppose that's where the first question comes from, of like being honest to ourselves of like where we are at the moment. I had a moment in response to the situation, a situation in the world that I wanted to respond to, and there was a real response to the suffering there, and I wanted to just, I was like, oh, what I'm doing doesn't feel enough. I just want to go there and help in any way I can. And I just had a felt sense of like, I don't know enough. My practice isn't a place where I can do that. And it's like, yes, I could completely commit the rest of my life to this one situation, and it would be of the world. It would be helping in a very practical way. And a thought came to my mind of just like, and there will still be old age, sickness and death. That kind of response of like, how I can actually help the world is by practicing Buddhist ethics, by furthering my knowledge of Buddhist teachings, by furthering my connection to the Three Jewels, and that allows me to respond to the suffering in the world in a more dharmic light. Anything else to add before tea break?
I was just thinking that as you were speaking, I was like, part of me was like, yeah, absolutely. But then there was another part of me that was like, oh, but like, it can so easily feel like a let-off as well. And then I was like, I think maybe it's just a tension that we just have to inhabit of, sometimes, or at least maybe part of ourselves wants to just kind of, well, like you were saying about Green Tower, kind of leg up in meditation, resource oneself in the Dharma. Yeah, you don't need to rush out. And then there's another part that wants to kind of take action, and it's almost like, I don't know, those two things can't be reconciled or something. You just have to hold that tension.
I think ideally what we're heading towards is to be able to do both, is to be in the world from that grounded wisdom perspective, knowing that yes, there is suffering, but having that sort of spontaneous responsiveness. I remember a little story about a woman. I walked onto a train station and saw this woman had collapsed, and it was in the winter, and it was in London, and everyone was ignoring her. And I was like, "What's going on here?" And then I went up to her, and she was having a stroke or something. Anyway, another guy came along, and we ended up, being with her. And then paramedics came, and I'd called her husband. And the next couple of days later, she called me, and she was so thankful. And I was like, "What are you thanking me for? This is surely just what you do. I saw you like that, and this is what we do, isn't it?" And she said, "No, my friend was with her granddaughter, and she'd collapsed on a tube, and people were walking over her." And I just heard that, and I thought, "Oh my God, I hope I never get to a point in my life where I'm willing to step over someone else's need like that." Yeah, and that's the extreme. But there's moments every day where we meet something that could stretch us a little bit beyond our sort of our self kind of, comfort, or and actually that will lead to joy. I think the more we can do that and go, because being too caught up in our own needs, I think leads to more and more suffering. So, yeah.
I think that's a perfect point to end it on. So yeah, we'll go for a tea break. We'll have 10 minutes, and just due to timings, we're going to have to make it quite a strict 10 minutes. So back up here, bums on mats for 4:20. Not finishing your tea at 4:20. Bums on mats at 4:20. Nicely and kindly and compassionately, of course. But I say it and it counts, right? Yeah, 4:20 back up here, guys. Thank you.
Do you want me to move it closer? Is that okay? Can you hear me? Yeah? So firstly, I'd just like to talk about giving. I've been asked to do what I do, which is ask for money, but I'd like to call it giving. So we've got this. We're about to do a Green Tara puja. Do most people know who Green Tara is? And, yeah, no. She's this figure here on the shrine, and she's the embodiment of wisdom and compassion that's responsive. We've been talking about Green Tara a bit through this session this afternoon. And well, she was actually born of another being's response to the suffering in the world. So there's another being called, in Buddhist, in the Buddhist tradition, called Avalokiteshvara. And it says that he looked at the world and the amount of endless suffering and just was overwhelmed. And he cracked open, which I quite like that image. You know, it's like by cracking open we create a bit more space and capacity, especially if that's done in the heart. And his response to suffering, the tears that came, they created a lake, and then this beautiful goddess, green goddess, or earth goddess called Green Tara was born, and she responds to suffering. She's known as the swift one. She responds quickly when you call her name. And I think there's something that sort of suggests a kind of, you know, when we just respond, I don't mean in a kind of hypervigilant sort of panic. I mean more as a kind of just a movement towards, whether that's to ourselves or others. Again, it's like a movement away from self. We're not sort of overthinking things. So she's a natural response to suffering. So that's Green Tara, yeah. And she's got all these different elements that I could talk about, but one thing is the way she holds her hand, which is it's called I think it's called the Vitakka Mudra, which is supreme giving. So she just gives what she can appropriately to what is needed in that moment. And I think that's what we're trying to get to in terms of wisdom, to that point in our response where we are just giving the appropriate gift, and yeah, we kind of know what's needed as well. So, in terms of giving, and giving in a way that reduces the suffering in the world, well, I'm just here to remind you about this Buddhist centre, that it's also a gift of giving to the world. It's because of the Buddhist centre that people can come and learn about the Dharma and learn to sort of change their relationship to themselves and to others, to grow a greater capacity for generosity, for kindness, for metta, for wisdom. And to do that on a very practical, worldly level, you need money. And I'm sure many of you are already generously supporting this project. It's what we do, isn't it? With what we value, and if we can, we support that. We support our values, and money is just one way of doing that. And that is not to discriminate anyone that doesn't have those kind of resources. The point of us giving, if we can, is to make it possible for those that don't have the capacity, the resources to come here to be able to. And that's why we call it a dana economy. So if you'd like to give, or if you're already giving and you'd like to give more, there's an opportunity as you go out to give on the desk. And the invitation is of £10, but don't let that limit you if you're feeling moved to give more. So that's the first appeal. The second one is, well, the reason I'm in Manchester is for Karana, which is what I've touched on very briefly today. And the work that Karana do with marginalised communities in South Asia is absolutely life-changing in a way that I could never imagine. But then the people that also come and do the fundraising campaigns, that work can only happen because of people giving their time and energy and their courage to come and do it. And of course, no one really wants to go out at night for 6 weeks, knocking on strangers' doors, uninvited, and ask them for their money. That's given. And there isn't a kind of person that can do that. So if you're thinking, I'm not that kind of person, then that's just a view. We all know how to talk to each other, and we can all grow as well, and they are perfect conditions for transformation as well. I just want to read to you, I got sent a message from one of the team of volunteers this morning. They were going to come and they couldn't today, but they asked me if I would read this out, which was music to my ears, because rather than me tell you how good it is, because obviously I think that, I'm going to just share with you what Fee, who some of you might know from the Buddhist Centre, what their experience has been. So this is their second door-to-door appeal, and they've done a number of telephone campaigns, fundraising as a spiritual practice. And they said, I hope it goes well at the centre this afternoon. I'll be thinking of you and hoping the power of Karana can be communicated through you. In case it's helpful, though, I thought I'd share a little reflection from last night. And they say, I really underestimated how much transformation I'd go through on this appeal. I thought I'd done all the work during my first one, and that this time I'd just be fundraising. But it's turned out to be one of the richest and most powerful experiences of spiritual practice I've yet had. Last night, I found myself face to face with my teenage self. A felt sense of being small, insignificant, and unworthy. And I managed to turn towards my genuine fear and was able to soften those old stories and meet people exactly as I am right now, with dignity and with an open heart. Yeah, so that's the kind of fruit, that volunteering for an appeal. So if you're interested, come and see myself or Neely, who's waiting at the door to catch you afterwards. No, she's not really. It's right, that's my silly humour. Pink scarf over there. Yeah. And we can offer you financial support to be able to do it. So that's one less thing to need to worry about. Yeah. We can offer you financial support to do an appeal. Yeah. Okay, so Midnight Star, a puja to Green Tara. So maybe just settling down into a posture that feels grounded, supports you to feel connected to the earth, the support of your body. So there's several sections. It will be call and response, and then we'll finish with a mantra where you can make offerings of light. There's candles at the base of the shrine. Puja to Tara. Firstly, worship. Heart of compassion. For whom no thought of self could ever arise. Committed to the welfare of the world. You encourage your devotees to express their love for you by serving all beings. So out of devotion to you, I offer to all beings the fruits of your heart. To each individual being, I give without end. Cool lakes and rivers, so they may bathe in your compassion. Sweet food and drink, so they may feast on your compassion. The sun, moon and stars, so they may be lit by your compassion. Rich breezes full of perfume and flower scents, so they may breathe your compassion. Music of birds and instruments, so their minds may be filled with your compassion. Salutation. Midnight star, lighting up the northern sky, with the brilliance of your love. You who are worshipped, even by the loving gods. To Tara I pay homage. Sweet breath of all the Buddhas, perfume in the world, with the scent of your compassion. You who are worshipped, even by the compassionate gods. To Tara I pay homage. Great archer of the Sugatas, striking down the hydra heads of jealousy, with the unfailing arrows of your sympathetic joy. You who are worshipped, even by the joyful gods. To Tara I pay homage. Going for refuge. Mysterious Queen, in the deep midnight of despair, when there is no safety, no clarity, no certainty, you appear with your gift bestowing hand. You hold the double Vajra, in which all opposites unite. May I accept the wisdom that you offer. See beyond the prison of duality. and emulate your still activity. Where samsara and nirvana fuse and disappear. There I go for refuge. Where birth and death fuse and disappear. There I go for refuge. Where wisdom and compassion fuse and appear everywhere. There I go for refuge. Confession of faults. Fearless lady, powerful queen, you who save beings from the 8 great terrors, please rescue me from the 1008 fears and anxieties that possess my mind. Before you I confess to all the commonplace worries and anxieties that fill my day, so that I rarely take an easy breath. The fear that stops me trying, the fear that creates a facade, the fear of being alone, the fear that makes me harsh, tight and unkind, the fear of not getting what I want, that makes me grabbing and self-concerned. Before you I confess the deep fears, fear of madness, fear of death, fear of life, fear of anything beyond the tortoise shell of my own ego. Before you I confess, most of all, the fears that hold me back from giving myself to the Dharma. Fear of commitment to the path, fear of change, fear of renunciation, fear of generosity, fear of courage, fear of going deeper, fear of freedom, fear of wisdom, fear of devoting myself to all beings. These fears did not arise by themselves. They stem from a million choices and acts in many lives. Choosing unawareness, choosing lack of courage, choosing to bury my head in samsara. Please forgive me and help me to lay these fears at your feet. May you pacify them all. O loving Tara, please take my shaking hand in yours. And gently form it into the mudra of fearlessness. Rejoicing in merits. Fearlessly and free from envy. I rejoice in the achievements of all those who bring beauty, peace and courage to the world. Fearlessly and free from envy. I rejoice in the spiritual heroes and heroines. Those victorious ones who conquer self-conceit. Fearlessly and free from envy. I rejoice in you. The Emerald Goddess. In your endless, selfless activity. That accomplishes all deeds. Fearlessly and free from envy. I rejoice in your intimate care for the world. So that every leaf, every blade of grass is soaked with the green of your compassion. Entreaty and supplication. O Queen of great compassion, wherever your love is needed, it is instantly there. Caught in the hurricane of suffering, its winds tearing at my body and mind. I only have to call your name. Tara, Tara, Tara. And the gales of longing and fear are pacified. Who could have imagined that those two tiny syllables could contain so much love, tender love, fearless love, the love of all the Buddhas. May I and all beings always call on you, and in response, may you shower the Dharma of your great love instantly upon us. And finally, dedication. May the merits of this praise ring out like a Vajra bell, playing always Tara's name, the gentle heartbeat of compassion, Vajra bell of Tara's love, echoing through time and space. May your sounding never cease. Its voyage out beyond the stars. Vajra bell of Tara's love. Rescuing beings in every realm. May your sounding never cease. Until all suffering has gone. Vajra bell of Tara's love. Ringing gently in my heart. May your sounding never cease. Till you and I are one at last. Om Tare Tu Re Swaha. 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 Om Tare Tu Tare tu re swaha. Om 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 Tare Tu Re Swaha.